This is Noah from Bad Omens. You're watching Heavy New York.
What's up, everybody? It's Alex from Heavy New York. We are back at the Kingsland in Brooklyn, and we got a guest that you all have been asking for so long, Noah of Bad Omens. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, of course. Thank you. I'm happy to be here. It's good.
It's so awesome to have you here. You guys, Oh Sleeper, Thousand Below, and Bloodline. It's a kick-ass lineup. One thing I wanted to ask you is, Finding God Before God Finds Me, your latest record, is absolutely beautiful. Was there like a preconceived idea on how you wanted this record to sound, or was there like a lot of improvising involved?
We like to talk about it a lot. Like, we had ideas for the record sonically and lyrically, but it's impossible to stick to for us just because we like to write what comes out. We don't want to write a song limited to just a narrow vision of how we want the record to sound, and then it not be as good of a song as it could have been if we just broke our own rules in a sense. So initially, yeah, we did, and some of the songs stuck to it, like the songs like Running in Circles, Burning Out, If I'm There. They kind of had like the big cathartic, like regal, almost Christian kind of vibe. We're not a Christian band, but a lot of the record was inspired by like Christian rock and Christian music. So those songs kind of had that vibe sonically, I think, where it's like, it's not happy, but it's not sad. It's just this weird, like purgatory, like uplifting kind of thing. And that's kind of why I call it cathartic.
Yeah. And, kind of like, you mentioned like Running in Circles, but songs like King of Cards or Dethroned, like it almost seemed like every song had like its own vibe and played by its own rules. Is it fair to say you were feeling many different emotions during the course of the making of this record?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's like, it's way easier to say it than to do it, I guess. So when it came time to write the songs, like I said a second ago, like every song kind of ended up having its own identity, and it didn't stick to a general format or track that we had intended on for the record. And I think straying away from that and kind of, like I said, breaking our own rules is what makes Bad Omens music more interesting. Is we don't go into the writing process with a goal, with like an alternate, like a ulterior motive in mind. We're not like, oh, we're gonna write a radio record, we're gonna write a heavy record. We just write what we want to write, and it ends up being something for everybody.
Do you need to hear music in order to come up with lyrics, or could there maybe be like a subject matter or a concept in mind, and that could help determine the music itself?
I do both. Some of the songs I wrote the lyrics to after like the instrumental was finished, and some of the instrumentals were actually kind of written around the vocals and the lyrics first. Careful What You Wish For example, that was just an old demo. It was a very basic, stripped down rock song Jolly had demoed out. It was just like guitars and drums and stuff. And one day I was home alone. I really felt like singing, and I just went into my studio and looped that song and hit record, and I just almost freestyled just about every melody in that song in like an hour. And then obviously Jolly came and got involved, and we fine-tuned it. I changed lyrics around and stuff, but for the most part that song just kind of came to me in a moment. And that was one of my favorite writing, I guess, processes on the record, is just how naturally that song came. It was originally inspired by Chester Bennington passing, and I don't know, it was just one of those songs where it just felt like something just whispered it into my ear, and I just spat it out into the microphone, and it came out beautifully.
You ever worry that sometimes you'll have like the best lyrics ever, but then they always go like one syllable over or under the actual arrangements?
Yes, that happens all the time when I'm writing lyrics and vocals. And I write so many vocals now, because like not even just for Bad Omens, like I write full-time off tour for other artists and stuff, and it's gotten to the point that like my brain is kind of almost what I imagine like freestyle rappers can do when it comes to just thinking of stuff on the spot. Like I always find a way to maneuver it so it fits how I want it to fit. It doesn't feel awkward, like trying to fit too many words in a 4-bar phrase or vice versa,
Does writing with other artists maybe open up your idea and how to bring some newer materials into Bad Omens, or do you try to maybe keep, collaborating with other artists and doing stuff with Bad Omens like more separate entities?
I was worried about that at first, but now I totally embrace it. Like I write from artists from, pop and hip hop, and I've even written with country artists before, and it gives me like the freedom to try things I've wanted to try with Bad Omens that I feel like I'm still not there yet, like comfortability wise. And then after doing it, I'm like, okay, I can do this with Bad Omens, So it definitely opens a lot of doors for us musically to experiment with people and genres outside of our own, and then take what we learned or what we tried and try with our own music.
Going back to the lyrics, do you tend to like to maybe leave things open to interpretation? I know you wrote a song in memory of Chester Bennington, which is amazing. But like, do you try to leave it open to interpretation, or do you try to maybe get the listener to see things from your point of view?
I almost always try to keep it pretty ambiguous. I like for people to think for themselves, and everyone has a different story, you know? So if I were to write a song that was extremely, like, way too extremely specific to something that just happened to me or bothered me or something, I feel like it would narrow the amount of people it was able to reach and you know, touch in a special way. So for the most part, I think there's like maybe one or two exceptions, but even then, like, if I really think about it, it's still pretty open to interpretation. So
from analyzing your lyrics, it almost seems like, especially on this record, it almost seems like there was elements that were both very literal and metaphorical. It seems like you're able to take it from all angles. Right?
That's really the goal. I like for my lyrics to be clever and witty and almost poetic, but I also want them to be, you know, I don't like to use too big of words or, you know, too crazy, you know, writing tools and stuff that people can't really wrap their head around. I like for people to be able to understand it easily, because that's how I like to read too, both like not only music but like books in general and stuff. I like to be able to just digest it easily and for it to make sense and it to be something that I can remember versus something I have to like really try to figure out. You know, I don't think music should be like a math problem or a puzzle, you know?
Yeah, if you overthink it too much, it's just going to ruin everything.
Yeah, especially writing it too. It's the same kind of scenario.
Yeah. Well, in order to get like inspired to write, do you have to kind of like put yourself in a certain room or a certain state of mind in order for the inspiration to come, or do ideas sometimes just come out of nowhere when you least expect it?
Well, like I said, like Jolly and I produce full-time off tour, so we're always in the studio. So we're almost always in a position where when inspiration comes, there's a record button and like a microphone or a guitar like within arm's reach of us, you know? So even like if we're like, because we do a lot of work for clients overseas and stuff where we remotely like produce other artists, and I'll be like writing a song for one of them, and then I'm like, oh, well, I think this could be a cool part for Bad Omens, and I'll like just open up a new session. And sorry to anyone watching this if we work together, but yeah, like it's, if I get an inspiration for like a Bad Omens song, I'll just kind of switch over there and start working on that, and then I'll go back and I swap back and forth a lot between what I'm working on, just because my brain is just doing a million things at once at all times.
Doing personal errands on company time.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm grateful for that. Like when you asked, you know, if writing with other artists helps expand Bad Omens, you know, in a way, there's a credit due to the other artists I work with and that I write music with or for, because even if it's just experience and practice, it's benefiting me as a songwriter, you know, even though I'm the one being, you know, hired to do this job, it's still experience, which you can never get enough of.
Ready for the most difficult question of the interview?
I'm excited.
How do you know when a song is done?
Yeah, a song is never done.
Yeah. Such a cop-out answer.
Dude, I mean, especially if you go to a Bad Omens live show, there's a few things I do differently vocally, or like Folio does different on the drums or whatever, where we're just like, oh, that would have been so much cooler to do that on the record. And almost every tour we do something different. We're like, let's try this time. And I think it makes it more fun that way, because every time a fan comes to see us, they get a kind of a different experience, whether it's with like the tracks in between the songs or like a melody being sung differently. Like even on this tour, and actually I think a past couple tours, like at the end of Burning Out, I sing the harmony instead of the main melody, just because it's like more fun to sing at this point, because I'm so tired of the main melody. So stuff like that. I mean, as far as a song being finished, I think whenever you have truly run out of time is when the song is finished.
All right. Fair enough. Work under pressure. Now, I have two questions regarding to the live presence, actually. But, you know, when I saw you live, the first time I saw you live was on the tour you did with All That Remains and Lacuna Coil. Great time. Really enjoyed that. And, you know, with your use of lighting and your stage production, I don't think there was a single static moment on stage by you guys. So, like, is there maybe a similar energy that you channel into your live presence as you do when you're songwriting, or is it almost kind of like a separate art altogether?
That's interesting. Songwriting is different for me because it's a very personal thing, and it's a thing I get to do in private where there's no pressure or anything. I have tried like writing sessions on Twitch and like live streaming, producing stuff, and that's fun, but it's never as seamless as it is when I'm just like by myself, and I know that like I can just try weird things. I can make a weird sound with my voice or try something silly or goofy and end up being cool. And in the live show, I don't want to say it's more calculated, because every night something crazy, something different happens, and that makes it more exciting for not only us but the fans. But it's just a different battle, because the live show is very calculated, because there's a set amount of time we're allowed to have, and every day there's a new challenge. Whether it's like even today, we can't use almost any of our production for this show, like none of our lights, just because of the way the stage is set up and like all the support bands. And those kind of minor sacrifices are what make the show more interesting in different ways. Like, we were able to have a longer sound check today because we weren't rigging up all the lights and stuff, and we got to try something new we wanted to try before we play one of the songs. So it's all really organic and just free flowing, but calculated at the same time, which I think that's the ideal live show, because you don't want it to feel too pretend or too fake or too just like scripted, but you also don't want it to be a train wreck and to inconvenience the venue or the other bands by going over or having a complicated changeover.
Well, James Hetfield said it was a breath of fresh air watching somebody play live, and they fucked up. You knew that they were real.
Yeah. There was a couple shows on this tour. I made a joke where my in-ear monitors, it had come unplugged during a song. And I was like, yeah, this is that part in the show where, we pretend like there's a technical difficulty just so the show's real. And everyone always like laughs at stuff like that. And I totally get what he's saying. It is a breath of fresh air when stuff goes wrong, because it's a real rock show.
Of course. And I have two more questions for you, but because kind of going back to playing live, right now you're playing with Oh Sleeper, 1,000 Below, and Bloodline. I think that's a dream package. Everybody who's at the show, I think, could appreciate every band. But the last time I saw you were touring with Lacuna Coil and All That Remains, and Uncured, who's like the modern Sepultura, and Tooth Grinder. I thought was fairly similar to you guys, but like playing with different bands, have you noticed maybe different audiences and different?
I have, and it's really interesting, and I've tried to dial this in and figure it out every tour we do, and I just can't, and I think it's a good thing. But we have such a wide demographic and fan base. Like, even at the VIPs on this tour, we have all different people of different ages and backgrounds and genders, political views, religious views. It's so diverse, our fan base, and I love that, because it means that, like, as a songwriter and as songwriters collectively as a band, we're doing our job by like reaching all kinds of different people and bringing them together, which is like what I think music in general is about, not just rock and metal, but it's like a place where people that are on the right side of politics and the left side of politics, or believe in God, don't believe in God, whatever, can all come under the same roof and have a good time together. And it's not a train wreck like family Thanksgiving or something where you're fighting with your aunts about who's getting elected next. So it's a good way to bring those people together. I think that there's a lot we could learn from that as a society and as like a culture, like what music does for people. I think that's why it's so important to people.
Yep. And you just led me to the final question, because while you mentioned you have a diverse fan base, but there's something that I find that ties every single one of them together, and that they are some of the most dedicated fans of a band I've seen. When I, being the journalist at the All That Remains Lacuna Coil show, my job was to kind of be a pain in the butt, be a buzzkill, and ask, people, oh, who are you here to see? And, asking your fans, like, what they told me your music has helped them, their music has, inspired them to, pick up an instrument on their own. When you see how somebody resonates with your art, does that like change on how you look at yourself as an artist in a way?
It crushes me sometimes. Like it really, like, I get emotional at sometimes, like during the VIPs, especially when we have more time to talk to people, and like people tell me stories about like how and why a song of ours resonated with them and stuff that happened. Even like earlier this tour, like someone had come up to me and told me that their mom passed away like last month, and that one of our songs was like something like kind of the driving factor that kind of helped them, I guess, process that and like, release whatever they were holding in that they needed to process. And a lot of the stories that people come to us with, I can relate to, just because I've been through like shit in my life too, of course, obviously. And I don't know, it's just it's such a strong connection that you can feel with a total stranger, sometimes more than like people I've known for years, almost all the time more, like even when we go on stage every night and there's like people just screaming the words at me that I wrote in my garage 3 years ago. I'm like, this is incredible. Like, this is like one of the most magical things. I read a book a couple years ago that says like comedians and musicians and magicians are like the closest thing to real world magic, because it's like almost mind control, like we can go and write a song in our studio and then it can be sent wherever and someone can play it in the radio and like it just changes their day. even if it's just them like headbanging, just getting into it in the car on the way to work, like it's like a form of mind control almost, but it's a good thing. Obviously it's like a positive thing because it's like it's making someone's day better, whether it's a distraction from something or it's just a good way to wake up, you know, in the morning before you go to your job or your school or something you're not in the mood to do. And I think that's just a beautiful thing about music, you know, making music.
Yeah, of course. Absolutely. So before we go, I'd like to thank you so much for your time. Really looking forward to the show tonight. Is there just anything else that you would like to promote with Bad Omens in terms of tours, new music, or any shout outs you'd like to give?
Yeah, I want to shout out this whole tour package, Killed and Born Again tour, 1,000 Below, A Sleeper, Bloodline. Every band on this tour is crushing it, and everyone's having a blast. We're all already tight, and I think that's awesome. That very rarely happens just because we're kind of a secluded, kept to ourselves band at times, and on this tour, like, it's already family. Like, we help each other out. We're playing Ukraine and Russia for the first time just in a few months this summer. It just got announced today, so people have been asking us to come to Russia forever, and I know that we have a lot of Russian fans that just hit refresh on all of our pages. So if you're seeing this and you're from Russia, we're going to be there very soon. Same with you, Ukraine. That's it. Come out to one of these shows. They're all selling out kind of quickly.
Awesome. Well, Noah, great to talk to you. Thank you so much. Everybody, Noah of Bad Omens, Finding God Before God Finds Me. Be sure to pick that up. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.